We are debt-free now, and I am still grateful every time I say that. Our final debt is gone. The car payment is gone. There is more breathing room in the household. And after years of praying, working, trying, waiting, and slowly rebuilding, that matters a lot. But I am also noticing something I did not fully expect. When the old target is gone, the next target is not automatically obvious. For a long time, the goal was simple. Get rid of the debt, reduce the pressure, stop the monthly payment from taking its share before anything else could happen. That was the target. It was clear. It was obvious. It was right in front of us. But now that the debt is gone, there is a new question. What now? Hi, I'm JP, and in this episode, I want to talk about the strange space after debt freedom. Because breathing room is a blessing, but breathing room still needs direction. And for us, the next target is becoming clear. Before we chase bigger goals, before we rush into the next exciting thing, before we start spreading the margin everywhere, the emergency buffer needs to be rebuilt first. Not because it is the most exciting target, because it is the protection layer. Debt has a way of making the target obvious. Not easy, but obvious. When there is a monthly payment hanging over the household, you know what needs to change. You feel it every month. You see it in the budget. You know that money is already spoken for before the month even begins. And that gives the journey a very clear enemy. The debt has to go. The payment has to go. The pressure has to reduce. That kind of clarity is uncomfortable, but it is still clarity. You may not like the situation. You may not enjoy the discipline it requires, but at least you know what you are fighting. For us, that was the car, that final remaining debt. And now it is gone. That is a blessing. But once the target is removed, the journey changes. The pressure drops, the breathing room opens, and suddenly the question is no longer, how do we get rid of this debt? The question becomes, what do we do with the room that debt used to take? Breathing room feels good, but it can also feel strange, because for a long time, tightness creates a rhythm. You get used to pressure. You get used to limitation. You get used to certain money already being gone. So when the payment disappears, there is relief. There is gratitude. There is excitement. But there can also be uncertainty, because the structure that was forced by pressure is no longer forced in the same way. And that is where the new test begins. When things are tight, discipline often feels necessary. There is not much room to be careless. But when things open up, discipline becomes more voluntary. The money does not automatically have the same urgent destination anymore. And that can be dangerous if I am not intentional. Because breathing room that has no direction can disappear quietly. Not through one terrible decision, not through some dramatic mistake, but little by little. A bit here, a bit there. A few small leaks, a few emotional yeses. A few we can afford it now decisions. And before you know it, the breathing room is gone. The difficult part is that the next options are not bad. That is what makes it tricky. It is not like there is one wise option and everything else is foolish. There are many good options. Rebuild the emergency buffer. Start preparing more seriously for a house deposit. Invest more. Strengthen the household. Create family memories. Build income. Prepare for future goals. All of those are good. All of those matter. All of those could be part of the journey. But not all of them can be first. That is the part I have to remember. Just because something is good does not mean it is the next target. Just because something is exciting does not mean it should get the first place. Just because breathing room exists does not mean it should be spread everywhere at once. If I try to chase every good thing at the same time, I can end up weakening the whole plan. So the question is not only what is good, the question is what is first. And for us, the answer is becoming clearer. The buffer comes first again. The emergency buffer is not flashy. It is not exciting content. It does not feel as inspiring as a house deposit. It does not feel as big as investing. It does not feel as emotional as a family holiday. But it is the thing that protects the household. And we have already seen that. A few episodes ago, I spoke about how the buffer did its job. Car expenses came, tires needed replacing, a service needed to happen. And in the past, that kind of thing would have created stress, delay, or maybe even new debt. But this time, the buffer absorbed it. It did what it was built to do. That moment taught me something. The buffer is boring until you need it. Then it becomes peace. It becomes protection. It becomes the difference between an emergency and a setback. It becomes the thing that stops pressure from becoming debt again. So now that the final debt is gone, the first job of the breathing room is not to create more comfort. It is to rebuild the protection. Progress without protection is fragile. That is the sentence I keep coming back to. Progress without protection is fragile. Because you can be moving forward, but if there is no buffer, one unexpected cost can pull you backward. One car issue, one medical cost, one school expense, one household surprise, one thing that doesn't fit neatly into the plan. And suddenly the progress feels exposed. That is why protection has to come before bigger progress. Not because dreams don't matter. They do. Not because investing doesn't matter. It does. Not because the house deposit doesn't matter. It does. But if the foundation is not protected, every future goal becomes more vulnerable. I do not want our debt-free season to become fragile. I do not want breathing room to create false confidence. I do not want to move too quickly into the next exciting goal while the protection layer is still too thin. So for me, rebuilding the emergency buffer is not going backward. It is strengthening the foundation. The old car payment cannot just disappear. That is the practical truth. That money used to have a job. It used to serve debt. Now that the debt is gone, the money still needs a job. It cannot just become invisible. It cannot just blend into normal spending. It cannot just get absorbed by convenience. Because if that happens, then debt freedom creates relief, but not progress. And I do not want that. I want the breathing room to become useful. I want it to protect the family. I want it to help rebuild stability. I want it to serve the next layer of the journey. So the old payment needs to be assigned, not vaguely, not emotionally, intentionally. And the first assignment is clear. Rebuild the emergency buffer. That is how the breathing room starts working for us instead of quietly disappearing around us. One thing I am learning is that stewardship is not only about avoiding bad decisions. It is also about putting good decisions in the right order. Because there can be many wise things to do with money. But wisdom is not only choosing good things. Wisdom is choosing the right thing at the right time. That is the challenge now. We are grateful for the blessing. We are grateful for the breathing room. We are grateful that debt is gone. But gratitude still needs order. Answered prayer still needs stewardship. And stewardship means asking, what should come first? For us, the order is becoming clear. Protect first, then build. Rebuild the buffer, then strengthen the next layer. Create memories, yes. Prepare for the future, yes. Think about the house deposit, yes. but keep the foundation protected. Because if the household is protected, the next goals can be pursued from a stronger place. I do not need to solve the whole future today. That is something I have to remind myself. Because once one big target is finished, there can be pressure to immediately define the next big mountain. What is the next major goal? What is the next milestone? What are we building toward now? And those questions matter. But I do not think I need the full map before I can take the next faithful step. The next faithful step is enough. And right now, that step is rebuilding the emergency buffer. It is simple, it is clear, it is not dramatic, but it is right. And sometimes that is what discipline looks like after a breakthrough. Not chasing the most exciting thing, not trying to prove progress quickly, not rushing into the next impressive goal, just choosing the next faithful step and doing it consistently. This is the part I did not fully expect. I thought the breakthrough would make everything feel clear, and in some ways, it does. Debt-free feels clear. Breathing room feels clear. Gratitude feels clear. But the next target needed thought, because the season changed, the pressure changed, the options changed. And when the season changes, the structure has to be reviewed. That is not a bad thing. It is part of growth. The old target did its job. It got us to this point. Now the next target has to serve the next season. And for this season, clarity looks like rebuilding protection. That might not sound exciting, but it feels mature. And I think that matters. Because financial freedom is not only about reaching milestones, it is about becoming the kind of person who can handle the next season well. That is the strange thing about this stage. The pressure is lower, but the responsibility is higher. Before, the debt created pressure. Now, the breathing room creates responsibility, because the money is not being taken by debt anymore. So now the question is, what we do with it. That is a different kind of test, a better test, but still a test. And I want to handle it well. I do not want to forget what God brought us through. I do not want to treat breathing room casually. I do not want to waste the margin we prayed for. I want to steward it. I want to assign it. I want to rebuild wisely. And I want the next season to be stronger because we did not treat the blessing lightly. Debt freedom is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new layer of stewardship. And I am learning that after a breakthrough, the next target is not always obvious immediately. For a long time, debt gave us a clear target. Now that the debt is gone, the breathing room needs a new job. And for us, that job is clear. Rebuild the emergency buffer, protect the household, strengthen the foundation, then build from there. It may not be the most exciting target, but it is the right first target, because progress without protection is fragile. And I do not want this debt-free season to be fragile. I want it to be steady. I want it to be protected. I want it to be stewarded well. So this is the next faithful step. Not the whole future, not the final goal, just the next right target. Rebuild the buffer, protect the breathing room, and keep growing from there. I'm JP, and I'll see you in the next one.